prick of a finger. Chapter 5. Turner unmounted the Pegasus, and when Paige got off, she let him set her down. They embraced once more, hearing little Tori run out of the house. Peter and Zalilia followed after. The fairies were also in the neighborhood since they were worried when Paige didn't return after a couple of hours. Tori joined in the hug. They hugged and broke apart soon after. "What happened?" Peter asked. Turner faced Peter, almost wanting to tell him a lie. Some fairy mistook her as Princess Briar Rose. She captured her using dragons. The adults' faces darkened. Tori, Turner, and Paige were left not knowing what the matter was. But then, Paige realized it could only mean one thing. What she said was true, isn't it? I am the princess? I am cursed to fall asleep until I die, just by a spinning wheel? She asked, her voice soft. Peter nodded. Yes, you were going to stay at the castle, but as soon as you began to walk you found the only spinning wheel in the castle as if you were drawn to it. Your parents decided it would be best for you to grow up away from that life. To keep you here until your 16th birthday was over. So my real birthday is today? Indeed, we were going to take you to the castle tomorrow morning after we revealed the truth, he said, and then he turned to Zalilia, go get the present. Zalilia obeyed his wish and went inside to get the gift they hadn't let her open the day before. She came back out with it and handed it to Paige. Paige took it and opened the package, scared of what it might be. All she found though was a dazzling lavender dress fit for a princess. Your true name is Briar Rose, Princess of Avani, Zalilia said. We were going to tell you the night before, but the boy was here. We were hesitant to say it, but I soon discovered who he really was. Funny how your true love happened to be the boy your parents arranged for you to marry. Paige and Turner looked at each other, stunned but happy to hear this. They weren't sure what she meant about meeting her true love, however. Beth saw this in their expressions and decided to explain. You see, Fashion, the shadow fairy, gave you her blessing to find true love, making it sound like she was giving you good fortune, but she added that your mother would be barren so that you were their only heir. That way, once you pricked your finger on the spinning wheel, you would die at the age of 16. A prime age for one to wed. To find love and then have it taken from you. In a way, she cursed both you and the prince. Matilda spoke next. Yes, but then we eased the curse so you would only fall into a deep sleep like death. The only thing that can save you is true love's kiss. And luckily, Fashion blessed you to find true love. Tia then asked, should we bring her to the castle or somewhere else? I mean, Fashion took Briar Rose already, so does that mean she failed? No, you shouldn't assume that the curse is over. It is still her 16th birthday. I think though, it would be best to move her away from here, Zalilia said. Turner interrupted, we should go to the castle. If what you say is true about the curse and how a kiss will awaken her, then as long as we are together the rest of the day, it shouldn't be a problem. He does have a point, Peter said, and the castle is well guarded. Plus, they burned any spinning wheels remaining. Peter walked over to the stables and got out his 2 Pegasuses. He mounted one and looked at everyone else still on ground level. Let us go in haste before Fashion comes. Princess, ride with Turner. The 2 agreed and went back to the Pegasus. Beth took the dress from Paige so she wouldn't have to carry it the whole way there. Zalilia took Tori's hand and guided the child to the remaining Pegasus while the 3 fairies extended their wings. Tori still didn't understand what was happening, but her mother told her they were on an important quest. The answer was good enough for the child. The group took off, placing Turner and Paige in the middle of the group. Paige was easily distracted from her fears when she saw the world below her. After 2 or 3 hours of flying, they made it to a glamorous castle perched near the snowy mountains. It seemed to glow in the sunlight. Paige's mind could not take it in that this was her real home and her long-lost parents lived inside it, waiting for her to return. They landed at the entrance where the King and the Queen of Avani greeted Turner's parents. His father was just explaining why the boy wasn't there with them when they heard the clopping of the Pegasus's landing and the three fairies. They watched in awe as the group approached the pair of parents. Paige found herself clinging to Turner as her eyes gazed at her real mother and father. They stared back, knowing who she was. As for Turner's father, he didn't put any of it together. He stormed up to his son in a fury. "Turner! I told you not to go after that girl. Look at her and how she smells. You went back to save this." Terranil's men could have handled her rescue, his father shouted, looking Paige over, but she was too consumed with the sight of her parents to notice or even hear what he was saying. "Father, silence yourself before you look like a bigger fool," Turner responded. He huffed, "What can you possibly mean?" The Queen of Avani approached Paige, lifting her hand to touch the girl's chin. Her eyes started to water. Then the Queen embraced her. Turner's father watched amazed at how the Queen hugged a random girl. "My briar rose. How I have dreamed of this day," the Queen exclaimed, before letting go to take a closer look at her daughter. "You are beautiful." Turner's father got over his confusion and said, "You can't mean she is the princess? Where has she been all this time?" The King of Avani stepped forward. "If you remember, our daughter was cursed. She was here for a while, but we decided it was for the best to send her away until her 16th birthday passed, which is why I must ask why my daughter is here now." Peter explained, "Fashion found and captured her today, but she escaped with Turner. We thought it was best to bring her here where guards are stationed. Apparently, Fashion has dragons on her side, which means she killed the Dragon Lord. She is a danger to us all with that kind of power. Her shadow magic alone can make her appear in any form like a dragon, but having real ones at her command is much worse. That I can agree on. Let's get inside and see what the rest of today brings us. If we succeed through the night, then tomorrow we will bring the war to her," the king said, turning to the steps, his long robes dragging behind him. Paige stared into a mirror and wore the lavender dress they had given her. It felt strange to have her hair done perfectly and have a dress that dragged on the floor. Sitting in front of her was a tiara. Beth, who had prepared everything for her, picked the tiara up and placed it on Paige's head. This was the strangest thing of all. Normally the only thing she ever put in her hair was flowers from the woods. The tiara was far heavier than a simple flower. Just as Beth finished up, Paige saw through the mirror that Turner entered the room. Beth nodded to him and went to attend to other matters such as dusting. She used her magic to efficiently clean the room. No one had stepped foot in it since Paige went away. "You know, that's the gift we gave you, the tiara," Turner said, pointing at the alien thing upon her head. She turned so she was looking at him instead of his reflection. "None of this feels right. I don't feel like I should be in this dress or have this crown, but there's no way for me to say it isn't true." Beth came back over. They looked her way as she said, "I'm going to get some candles for the room. It's awfully dim in here. There are guards outside, but Turner, don't leave her by herself." Turner nodded, and Beth went out the door. Paige and Turner were left in the room with one candle as the only light source. Under the king's orders, the windows were to remain closed and covered by curtains. "That's all it has been since I got here. I haven't even spoken a word to my own father," Paige said, looking at the empty fireplace. "He seems strict." Turner knelt by her chair, taking her hands. "I'm sure he's just stressed and angry at the situation we're facing. Though, being a king is always a stressful job. My father is the king of stress." Paige laughed, but her laughter was interrupted when she suddenly saw green flames burst inside the fireplace. She stood frantically, knocking over her chair. Turner glanced at the fireplace, seeing nothing. Slowly, as if in a trance, Paige walked forward. Turner followed behind her, placing his hand on his sword that rested at his side. "Paige, did you see something?" he asked. "There was a green spark," she said, sounding like she had no emotions. When something eerie happens like that, one shouldn't go towards it as she was doing. She stopped at the fireplace and stared directly at a stone that seemed out of place in the wall. She stepped inside the empty fireplace and pushed the rock in as Turner warned her not to. Nothing happened, so he relaxed and told her to get out. Then the hole inside of the fireplace twisted, whisking Paige away. Turner tried going after her, but he was too late. She was out of his sight. He quickly searched for a way to turn it back, but the loose stone wasn't on his side. On the other side, Paige got out of the fireplace and saw she stood before a spiral staircase leading upward. In her mind, she screamed at herself to not go anywhere without Turner. Finally, she gained control and went back to the fireplace, searching for the stone she pushed in. To her dismay, it was nowhere in sight, so she yelled instead. "Turner, are you there?" "Yes, I am here." "Push that stone again." "There isn't one on this side." She looked once more for the stone, pressing in random ones now. "It's no longer here." "I can't find it." "What? How could it have disappeared?" he questioned. "I don't know." "Magic?" She heard him gasp, and then he shouted, "Stay where you are, and I'll try to break through. Just step aside a little." "All right," she yelled, pressing herself against the nearest wall as she heard him banging something against the stones. Several times her eyes looked at the stairs, her body wanting to go up them, but she planted herself where she was. Soon it became a fight within her. She started to breathe heavily, sinking her feet into the floor in an attempt to delay movement. She focused on the banging. Then her breathing slowed with great suddenness. Her body relaxed and she walked towards the stairs, never blinking. With slow steps, she went up the stairs where she found a wooden door. She twisted the handle and let the door swing open. From below, Turner yelled that he was coming, but he had only gotten to the point where there was a small hole he could fit his arm through. When he saw the train of her dress vanish up the stairs, he shouted her name. Guards flooded the room and began to help him break down the wall. Now inside the circular room, which was in the tallest tower of the castle, she found a black spinning wheel and a small bed. She neared the spinning wheel first, lifting her finger to the sharpened spindle. Though from the outside she appeared calm, inside she willed herself to step away. And then inside her head, Fashion said to her, "A blessing is a blessing, and it shall be yours, dear princess." "But I will not die," she cried before her finger pricked the sharp point. A single drop of blood emerged from her finger as her knees buckled, and she fell to the floor. Fashion appeared from the shadows as the black spinning wheel disappeared. She looked down at the sleeping girl. A grin formed on Fashion's face. "We shall see about that." She lifted her claw-like nails, ready to strike the maiden. When her blow drew closer to Paige's face, an invisible barrier knocked Fashion's hand away with a shock. The fairy chewed on her lip, realizing Matilda and her two apprentices were smarter than they looked. No matter if the fairy killed everyone Paige loved, the girl might as well be dead too. The wall from down the stairs broke and guards scrambled up along with Turner. Fashion walked over to the door and stepped out onto the stairs. She closed the door and locked it behind her. Triumphantly, she strode down the steps, looking out the windows she passed on her way. Soon the skies would be filled with smoke. She would not let humans rule over her kind. When were they going to realize witches and fairies were their superiors? As she neared the end of the stairs, she bided her time as the guards charged her. As she turned to face them, she released small dragons from under her dark cloak. The dragons flew at the men, biting and burning them. The guards fought them off but lost their ground on the stairs. Turner tried to squeeze through, but Fashion formed her wings and flew at Turner and the guards, forcing them back into Paige's chambers. Once they were all in the room, a large dragon blasted through the windows, torching the furniture with its sprouting flames. Turner redirected his attention to the fireplace, determined to reach Paige. The shadow fairy laughed as her tall figure stood in his path. "You think you can beat me? I've waited for this moment for 16 years. I've planned everything. Sure, it would have been easier if a simple prick killed her, but all I have to do to kill her is kill you." "That's not true," Turner retorted, readying his sword. "I believe a true love's kiss has to be from someone who truly loves her. She has her parents, Peter, Zelilia, the 3 fairies, and Tori. You are a smart boy and also a dense one. With my dragons, I'll be able to kill them all. Besides, some of them have only fooled themselves into thinking they love her. Her parents gave her away and the rest of them lied to her. As for the little girl, Tori, she won't be in my way. Just like you." Turner ran at her with his sword, but she blocked his every move with her wings. Then he found an opening and sliced her upper arm. She growled as blood leaked from the cut. "Everyone is surprising me today," she mumbled before using magic to slap Turner's sword away. The sword flew out of his hand, and he raced after it. When he turned back to her, she formed a dark shadowy dragon around her body. The guards, who had barely killed the other dragon by damaging its wings and pushing it through the gaping hole, looked over in horror. As her creation was nearing its completion, Zelilia, Peter, and the 3 fairies came into the room with their weapons. Zelilia held a bow with a small sword strapped to her side. Peter carried a sword and shield. The 3 fairies all summoned the magic stored in their wings. "If we kill her, then we can control the dragons," Zelilia said to Turner. "You mean she brought more?" Peter spun his sword. "She brought a full force. Don't worry about Paige for now. We need to kill Fashion first. This is all the help we're going to get. Everyone else is fighting the dragons outside." Fashion, as the dragon, looked at them with green eyes. Having already fought Fashion as a fairy, Turner knew that, as a dragon, it would be harder to get in close and find her physical body through the shadowy dragon she had become. She blew fire out at them. The group ducked and rolled. Zelilia and the fairies shot at Fashion when they could, but everyone else who didn't have a ranged magic and weapons stood back and tried to stay alive as they waited for a chance to get closer. Little did they know that young Tori had come into the room. She didn't want to wait in the halls alone. She hated listening to the dragons outside the castle walls and in Paige's bedroom while people screamed. Peter spotted his daughter and ran to her as fast as he could. He ordered the girl to go back outside, but then more fire went ablaze. He took his girl's hand, covering her with his shield as they ran inside the fireplace. Then he got an idea. "Tori, go to that door up the stairs and open it for us. Paige is stuck inside." Finally, the little girl obeyed him. She ran up the steps and out of harm's way. Peter went back to action with his wife and the others. They fought hard, but their numbers were dropping. Beth handled herself well enough, being able to direct the flames elsewhere using her sun fairy magic. However, because she was using her magic so readily, she quickly drained through what she had. She could no longer summon her wings nor could she repel the flames. There was no chance a pixie would be able to reach her in time to restore her powers. Fashion noticed Beth's weakened state and caught Beth and 3 guards in a fountain of flames. They died instantly. Matilda gasped at the sight but quickly focused on Fashion. She had given up flying with her wings for a while, focusing on attacks. She formed an icicle and thrust it at the shadow dragon. It caught the icicle in its teeth and shattered it. The shadow proceeded to bat Matilda out of the gigantic hole in the wall with its tail. Tia gasped and flew to get her master before it was too late. They had already lost Beth. Those who remained were 4 guards, Turner, Peter, and Zalilia. Seeing a fallen guard's bow, Peter ran forward to claim it, giving Turner his shield. Press in on her feet. It might clear the shadows so Zalilia and I can get a clear shot of her physical body. Turner nodded and raced forward. Fashion blew fire out at him, but he kept himself covered with the shield and the 4 guards helped him advance with their shields. Once he was close enough to the dragon's feet, he sliced through it. To him it was effortless, like slicing through a fog, so he thought perhaps it had no effect. Torai, who had gotten the door open, raced down the stairs to tell her father that she had completed her task. She stopped when she saw the shadow dragon shiver, then she looked towards her mother who had been aiming at the dragon for the longest time to find a clear shot. Now! Peter shouted to Zalilia, then he yelled at Turner and the guards, "Get back!" Zalilia smiled as she released her arrow. It spun right into its target, finding where Fashion had hidden amongst the black fog. Turner and the guards ran for it as the shadowy dragon started to fall over dead. Before it crumbled to the floor, the shadows vanished and only the fairy's body hit the tile. She was still alive but bleeding out profusely. "How dare you side with them," she said to Zalilia. "Do you want Avani to take control of Fictitious?" "They aren't going to. They never were. They were only making peace with us," Zalilia said. "Peace? As they burn witches? Fairies will be next, princess." "You should have never given up your crown," Fashion croaked, letting loose her last bit of magic. Just after it left her fingertips, it went straight at Zalilia. There was no stopping it as the magic punctured the fair elf's heart. She took her last breath before crumpling to the ground. Fashion followed after with a satisfied grin. Peter ran to his wife, mourning over her dead body. Torai stood in the fireplace, frozen still. She had been proud of her accomplishment moments before, but it vanished. Tears formed in the child's eyes as she whimpered. From beneath them, they heard the tremors of the fight below. The dragons were still following the last order given. Turner and the guards felt the sting of it all, but a new question had presented itself, and they needed an answer. Who is the new dragon lord? Zalilia killed Fashion, but Fashion killed her before she died, Turner asked. Peter choked back his sobs, knowing he must answer the question. The power would stay with Fashion and go to whoever she is closest to. And the dragons won't stop attacking without new orders, so we must kill them if we are to live. One brave knight pulled himself to his feet by leaning on his sword. He looked at Turner and his peers. We must continue to fight the dragons. For Zalilia and our kingdom. Torai watched as the men left the room, including her father who grudgingly left his wife's side. Torai tried to speak and tell Peter not to leave, but she couldn't. Once she was alone, she ran to her mother's side and hugged her tightly. Then the girl's eyes went to her mother's bow. She would never be the same again.